talk to you about setting up the Python external API for Smart Shooter. I don't know exactly what this will do beyond allow us to control Smart Shooter from another source using this API facing outward thing. It's all mumbo jumbo to me. I did try to follow the instructions here available from the Smart Shooter website, and they're kind of vague. It's really more suited for people who do this stuff a lot. I spent a couple days figuring it out, and now I've put together this video walking you through setting up, downloading, installing, testing, getting everything to work. So that way, if you want to play with this external API, you at least have a fighting chance. So on Smart Shooter's website, we'll start here, the external API page. It talks about kind of what the API does. It tells you about the ZeroMQ library for getting messages in and out of Smart Shooter. And then it gives us a list of some things it can do, some code. It's all mumbo jumbo. So what we'll do is we'll start by going to the sample code page, which I have already pre-bookmarked up here. And this is the place where the actual code and information resides for the external API for Smart Shooter. So kind of browsing through this little section here, it tells us that ZeroMQ is the messaging service that Smart Shooter uses, and JSON is the messaging format, and it's all done through Python. Python is a scripting language which requires that you install an interpreter on your computer, and once the interpreter is installed, you can pass these JSON messages into the ZeroMQ sort of plugin inside Python, and Smart Shooter will receive them and do whatever they need to do after reading them. So first step is we need to install Python on Windows. So I'll click on this link here, brings us into Python's website, and we can download different versions. I'm just going to click this download Python 3.6.1, and it's downloading the file. What I found, this is where I screwed up before, and I found a way to fix my screw up. Well, when installing Python, it wanted to install it in sort of a very strange location on my computer, and it didn't make much sense. It wasn't in program files. It was like 7 layers deep inside a user profile. So what I found was if I install it as an administrator and tweak some of the settings inside the installation configuration, it made everything install properly, or the way I would expect a program to install. So I found the installer in my downloads folder. I'm going to right click on this and choose run as administrator. And see here, when it wants to install, it goes to users, my username, app data, local programs. Like it's nuts. I don't want to do this. I want my installation to be in kind of a normal place. So I'm going to click on Customize Installation here, which will allow me to tweak where I do my installation. This I leave alone. Everything was checked by default, so I just leave it alone. I click Next. And then here, this is where the magic happens. So if you notice here, it says Customize local install location. It's kind of nutty. If you choose Install for all users up here, this changes to a kind of a normal install location. So program files, x86, Python 3.6, 32-bit version. I'm going to check this Add Python to Environment variable so we can hit it from different locations inside Windows. And I'm going to leave everything else alone. I'm going to click Install. And on my computer, it took about 2 minutes to install, maybe 3. In fact, I will time it. Let's see, what time is it? It's 1:06 a.m. What I'll do is I'll leave this up and we can time how long it'll take to install. I think it'll take about 3 minutes. All right, that took about 2 minutes. I was wrong, about a minute off the mark, but still didn't take 30 seconds. So we're done here with the installation of Python. We're going to close this. And what I'd like for us to do is see where it installed. So if we go into our PC, and then if we open up the local disk and we look for program files x86, we should see in here a folder called Python 3632. This is beautiful. This is what we expect. So the next thing I want to do is I want to check to make sure that it actually installed correctly and it's working. It's one thing to install something, but if it's not working, it does you no good. So let's go to the start button. Let's type in CMD to get the command prompt. And I found life is easier when I run anything as an administrator. So I right click, choose run as administrator. And the way to test it is by just typing in simply the command Python, Python, hit enter. If everything worked, we should get Python sort of running. It'll tell us what version is running and installed. There we go, Python 3.6.1, which is exactly what I expect. And this little whatever those little greater than symbols, that means that you're in the Python environment, which we're going to leave by hitting Control Z. And so now I am confident that Python is installed and working on this computer. So the next thing we need to do, we can get out of this and go back into here. So we haven't Python installed. Next thing we need to do is we need to install this thing called ZeroMQ, which is a messaging service. Basically Python's little scripting language. You can send messages into it using ZeroMQ. It handles the message and puts it in a way that Python understands, then Python can then do things in response to receiving the message. I tried to install it from here directly because you can download an installer, and it didn't work. So I went back and found here there was a command that we could run inside the command prompt, which would install it for us. And so I'm reading it here. It's PIP, which means I don't know what it means. It's something to do with Python package installations. Anyways, it's a program that got installed when you installed Python just a minute ago. So what you do is we type in PIP to run the PIP program. We pass in the command install, which will install something. And then we need to pass in the command PYZMQ, which I believe means Python ZeroMQ. The problem that I had earlier was if I left this -- user option as it is written here, things didn't work. So we're going to remove that, and I'll show you what we're going to copy this, and we're going to go back into the command prompt. Open the command prompt, run as administrator. I'm going to right click and it just automatically pastes that thing in that I copied, PIP install. I'm going to arrow over here and get rid of user. Go back, I'm just going to hit enter. And so it looks like it installed, and I don't know if it's meant to show more stuff on the screen or not. Like it says using cached version of PYZMQ, but I'm not sure that's because I did this installation earlier or if it's actually like included with the Python installation or not. Regardless, it's there, and I'll show you where it is located. So if we go back into our Python, let's get out of here. We go back into our Python folder, local disk, program files, x86, Python, which is down here. And then inside here, there should be a folder called lib. And in here will be another folder called site packages. And in here will be a folder called PYZMQ 16.02, which is the thing that we just pulled down and installed. So what I want to do now is I want to test to make sure that it worked. There's probably a more clever way to test this, but I haven't found a clever way to test it, so I'm going to do it through brute force. The way I'm going to do it through brute force is by actually running Python and loading some ZeroMQ scripts and having them talk to each other. And in theory, if the scripts talk to each other, that means everything worked okay. So the scripts can be found. I have this saved here in a notepad file, and what I'll do is I'll put this in the comment section below. There's two files that we're going to pull down, two Python scripts that we're going to pull down from the internet, and we're going to save them to our computer, and we're going to run them, and they're both going to talk to each other. It's the client script and the server script, and I have it both marked here to test ZeroMQ. So in order to get these scripts, we have to go to the website, the ZeroMQ website, and they have these scripts already up and ready for us. We're going to use them to test our installation. So let's go and just paste that location. There's the client script, and then let's find the server script. Just copy and paste that here. Make a new tab, already there, hit paste, boom. All right, so these are basic hello world scripts for this messaging thing for Python. So I have, notice if you can see here, I've got two scripts. There's a client script here. In this tab, I've got a server script. So these two things right here, I'm going to copy and save them onto my computer as Python files. So before I get started, I'm going to make a little folder on my computer where I'm going to put all my Python scripts just to make life easier. So I have in here my documents folder. I'm just going to right click, make a new folder. We'll call it Python scripts. All right, is that good? So let's get these two scripts going. Let's start with the client one. I'm just going to copy this. And then I'm going to go into Notepad, make a new file. I'm going to paste it in. And then I'm going to save it. And I'm going to put it in, let's put it in here, Python scripts. And this one, which one was this one? This was the client script. So I'll call it ZeroMQ client.py. Save that. All right. And actually the context change in Notepad++, which is pretty cool. And now I'm going to make a new file, and we're going to get the server script off this. We're going to copy this. Head back over Notepad++. I'm going to paste it in. Save this file, save as. And I'm going to call this ZeroMQ, let's call it server.py. Hit save. Boom, we're done. And looks like that looks wonderful. And if we go into that folder, we should see two of these little files that we made. All right, so now that we have these two scripts, we can run them. We're going to run them using the Python coding environment, IDE. I think it's called IDLE, IDLE. And we're going to edit with IDLE. We've got the client one on this side. We're going to go back to this. We're going to open this one up also in IDLE. We can have two instances running simultaneously, and we'll put them side by side. And so we have here, this is the client, this is the server. We're going to run both of these, and in theory we should get some feedback saying that they're talking to each other. So let's click run on the client side, run module. And so it opens up a Python shell, and it's just sending requests, waiting for the server to reply. We're over here, we're going to click run module, and in theory, if things worked out, they'll communicate with each other. We're going to click allow access, and already we can see that things are working. So I'm confident now that Python is installed and the ZeroMQ thing is working as well. And this is great because this took about 2 days to figure out. So I've now got it running for the first time doing this video from a clean install in a couple minutes. So that's pretty awesome. All right, so those things are working. I'm going to kill that. I'm going to kill this, close this, and close this. All right, so now finally the last thing we need to do is we need to make sure that our connection to Smart Shooter is working. So if we head back over to the Smart Shooter webpage, there is some code that we need to pull down. It's this little script right here, which when we run it, in theory, will allow us to connect everything to, it'll verify that everything is working. Let me right click on this. We're going to save link as. And now we've got this Python script. We'll go back into documents, Python scripts. I'm just going to save it right here. All right, got that guy going. Okay, so now we need to connect our camera to the computer and we need to run Smart Shooter. So I'm going to pause this video for just a second while I go ahead and do that. All right, I've got my camera plugged into the computer. So let's run Smart Shooter and see if we can get everything talking to each other. I am now in Smart Shooter and I've got my camera plugged in. Right now I'm going to connect to it. So it's just for, you can tell, I have a camera USB plugged in to the side of the camera. The camera's turned on. I have the USB cable plugged into the USB port on my computer. And I'm going to click connect here. And now we should see that I have a Canon EOS 6D. You might have a different, I'm sure you have a different camera than I do. If I turn on enable for the live view, you'll be able to see live view on the screen. So here I am waving my hand. Life is good. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to get Python and this messaging thing, making sure that it works and it's communicating with Smart Shooter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make Smart Shooter float it all the way over to this side. And then in the other side of my screen, I'm going to go, and I've got that script that I pulled down from the Smart Shooter website, and I'm going to right click on it, open it with IDLE. And this is a very basic script. The whole point of the script is that it should demonstrate that Python and the messaging service are communicating with the software, with Smart Shooter. And when Smart Shooter does something, like gets an event or fires off an event to the camera will reply with some information, and then Smart Shooter will publish that information back into Python. And we should see it in a screen. So let's get going. We're going to run this little program. Run, click Run Module down here. And a new shell pops open, and we've just got this thing. It's open to listening, and already we're receiving messages. So my guess is, I've not read through the code. I suspect that the program itself is just communicating with the Python script is communicating with Smart Shooter and polling it for activity. And every time something happens, it shows up as a list here. So let's fire off a shot on the camera and we'll see what happens. If we click shoot, boom, look at that. We have a whole bunch of cool stuff here that just popped up. In fact, it is so cool, I'm gonna copy it. Let me see if I can copy this. All right, and then I'm gonna stop the script because I don't need it anymore. Kill it. Let's go back into Notepad and we're going to make a new file. We're going to paste it in here. Looks like I screwed it up. Let's try that again. It should be pretty easy to do. Run the script, edit with idle, option run, module, use the program open, go back into Smart Shooter, initiate a photograph. It'll show up in here. Let's see if we can just save this as. Save as. Can we just save this as a file? Script output and see what it does. We'll X out of this. X out of that because I'm not using it anymore. Let's see if we open this. Let's just open it in idle and see what it says. Look at that. We have a whole bunch of really cool stuff in here, and let's try and read through it, see what it says. So it's just some sort of network information. That's the first message that came through. And the second message, it looks like it's an event, and it's some sort of update message. And so the things are communicating over a port, over an internal IP address. and it tells us what camera we've got, and it looks like some sort of serial number. And then it tells us lots of really cool stuff about the camera. Some Boolean things about what it can and can't do, or what state it is or is not, how large the sensor is, some battery stuff, and then let's see, this is an event camera update message. Is it all the same thing? Look, it's all the same. Received, and then all right, so this one right here, this event tells us about a photograph that we took. So it tells us where the photo's been stored. Has some gibberish that makes no sense to me. The original name of the photo, and then Smart Shooter renames the file. There's some sort of time and date stamp, tells us what kind of file it is, how large it is, and some other cool stuff. Camera update message. Yeah. All right. So it looks like we're done. At least we're done getting everything kind of talking to each other. From here, I really don't know what I can do with this API thing, but I expect it'll be pretty cool. Maybe build like a little arcade button thing that you can communicate wirelessly to the computer, like a photo booth, which you could turn on or turn off live view, or to zoom, or to focus, or some other stuff like that. All right, I hope this was helpful. And if you guys have any questions, leave comments below, and I will do my best to answer them. Thank you.